Okay, in this lesson video for reporting category 2, we're going to talk about describing transformations of linear functions. So we're going to flip open to this page. And we're going to start off by talking about the linear parent function. And that equation is y equals x. Okay? And notice your slope is 1. And your power is also a 1. Okay, so if you don't see an exponent because it's an invisible 1, and you don't see a slope because it's an invisible 1, and there is nothing being added or subtracted after, and nothing in parentheses, then you know that you have the linear parent function. So we are going to graph the linear parent function. So I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to type in x. And then I'm going to go to my table, and I'm going to start filling in. So when x is a -2, y is the same value as x, so that's a -2. The y value is the same value as x. That's what that equation is saying, and I see it's true in my calculator. When x is 0, so is y. When x is 1, so is y. And when x is 2, so is y. So we're going to graph this here. So -2, 2, -1, 0. That's what it looks like. And I know when x is -3, so is y. And when x is -4, so is y. It's basically all of these ordered pairs on the diagonal for the graph. And I'm going to go ahead and connect them because there is nothing telling me that my domain is discrete, leaving out values. So I'm going to connect. And so now I can answer these informations. My slope is 1, which is telling me it's the same as 1 over 1. So I'm moving up 1 and right 1 every time. That's why my slope is positive. And my y-intercept is the origin, which is the same as my 0, so that's x equals 0. And my x-intercept is also the origin, because that's where I'm crossing the x-axis. Okay, so this is where all your lines start with. They start at the origin for their x and y-intercept. Their slope is a value of 1, okay? And then from there, it's going to do some transformation. So remember, I had over. So we've got inside, horizontal, opposite domain, over, outside. That means we're moving vertically up or down. It's going to do exactly what you think in the range. You also have some changes to your slope. Okay, slope, if it's positive, you know your line is going to go up. If the slope is negative, your line is going to slant down. And then if your slope, remember, your starting value for slope is always going to be a 1. Now, if your slope gets bigger, so if it changes to a bigger number, that's going to cause your line to get steeper, go up more, slant up. Okay, think about going up a steep mountain. Okay, it's going to be steeper. If your slope value gets smaller, so it gets smaller or less than 1, then your line is actually going to rotate downward and it's going to appear flatter. Okay, so let's look at these examples. I'm starting off with the parent function x, and then it's changing into 3x minus 2. So I want to look at the IHOD. Do I have a number inside the parentheses? If you don't see parentheses, you do not have an IHOD number. So we don't have anything telling me that my graph is moving left or right. So now I'm going to check the over. If I don't see outside or parentheses, then this number after this x is the outside number. So this is an outside number. And so when I think -2 and I'm talking about moving up or down, I'm thinking down 2. And that is exactly how this is going to move. This is going to move down 2. And it's that -2 that's telling me that's what it's going to do. All right, let's see what other changes it's going through. So now I'm going to look at 3, and that's the slope. If it's not an inside number, it's not an outside number, then the other number that you're looking at is slope. So 3. Okay, well, if I started off at a 1 and now it's a 3, did it get bigger or did it get smaller? It got bigger, which tells me that my graph is going to be steeper than it started off. So those are the changes. It went down 2 and it got steeper. And notice, I'm not using my calculator for this. I'm looking at the patterns in the numbers and knowing if the number is an inside and outside, an IHOD and over, or if it's talking about slope. So let's look at the next example. Example number 2. Again, I'm starting off at the parent function, okay? And then I'm changing into this negative, or the opposite of the difference of x and 2. And so now I want to start back at IHOD. Do I have a number inside the parentheses? Well, now I see parentheses, so I have to have a number inside, -2. Okay, so if I'm moving inside, that means my only options is left or right. Okay, that's it. I'm not going to do anything else. So I'm either moving left or I'm moving right. But here's the kicker. You got to remember that O means opposite. So I'm thinking if my choices are left or right and I see negative, I'm going to think left because when we subtract or when we have a negative number, we go to the left on our number line, but it's really going to go right. If we have addition, we're used to thinking going right on the number line, but it's going to do the opposite, so now it's really going to move left. So now let's see if we can apply that to this. So -2, I'm thinking left 2, but it's really going to do the opposite. It's really going to go right 2. And that's what these letters in IHOT are supposed to help you remember. Inside, do the opposite. Okay, outside. Do I have a number outside the parentheses? I don't see a number, so I don't have an over number. I'm not moving up or down. It's just moving right 2 so far. And then everything else is slope. So this guy right here is going to be slope, and that's actually a -1. Okay, so if it's negative, it's going to now slant down when it started slanting up, so that means that there is a reflection. So it reflects over x-axis, okay? So if it slants downward, it started slanting up, so we know it's going to reflect over x-axis. But did it get steeper or flatter? So that's where we look at the number. If the number started at a 1 and it's still a 1, that negative is talking about the reflection, so we're going to ignore it. Now we're just looking at the number. If it didn't change, 1 and it still stayed a 1, it didn't get bigger or smaller, so it's not going to get steeper or flatter. Those are the only changes that we have to our linear function.